Now I'd like to call up Bob Gabriel to introduce our next speaker. Bob Gabriel is one of the Rothman Institute's advisory board members. He is a serial entrepreneur and helping teach one of our certificate programs.
Good morning. It's my pleasure this morning to introduce Albert Browne. He's the National Program Director and Vice President, Education and Technology for Verizon Foundation. At Verizon, he's responsible for building the foundation's initiatives in education and technology, including leading the effort to expand the foundation's flagship program. It's called Thinkfinity. It's an interesting name. The foundation's focused its philanthropic strategy, grant-making initiatives in the areas of education, literacy, family safety and health, and employee volunteerism. Thinkfinity, the foundation's acclaimed digital platform that provides over 55,000 educational resources to educators, is developed in partnership with 11 of the nation's leading education and literacy organizations. Albert's visionary leadership is transforming Thinkfinity to better serve the needs of teachers, community-based programs, parents, students in today's global society by providing advanced and accessible technology. And this content that infuses 21st century skills into education and resources that help students, parents, and caregivers extend learning beyond the classroom. Albert has also served as the Strategic Council member for the Partnership for the 21st Century Skills Organization. My pleasure. I'm delighted to introduce Albert Browne.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you and good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Very rarely do people refer to me as Albert, since I go primarily by Al. So when I hear Albert, you know, the memories of my mother calling me for something I did wrong comes to mind. On top of it, we just had an amazing presentation from Dr. Grant on the issues of what we need to do. One thing we need to do to reform and change the system to get better results. And he also interjected there about public speaking, and I'm up to speak next, publicly. So what did he say? Speak up, be clear, speak slowly. And then I hear my mother saying, Albert, and I'm reminded of the words of Roscoe Brown, who said, you know, the brain and the mind is a powerful thing. It starts working the minute you're born and stops the minute you get up to speak in public. So I need you all to work with me here today. I'm surprised we still have an audience, and I tell you why. And the only reason I would agree to take another 20 minutes of your time to speak here is because Jim agreed to cover my coffee to come over here, and I don't really want to go back to the office now. But you heard it all from Dr. Grant, and we should be out there acting. We need to get out and act. But fortunately for me and for you, that the next speaker later this morning, Horn, is going to be an amazing opportunity for you to put all of this together. It's sad. So where are we today? I'm going to break a number of the cardinal rules, despite Dr. Grant's warning, for presenting in the 21st century. First of all, I have more than 4 slides. Rule number 1 broken. Rule number 2, I'm using a 20th century tool, PowerPoint and paper. I tell you, diverge for a quick second. Last night, as I was preparing my remarks and thinking about this and printing out the paper, my 13-year-old daughter, who was in my office reading, noticed that I was printing and working on this. She said, "Dad, what are you doing?" So I'm preparing to give some remarks tomorrow morning to talk to a group of folks about teaching and learning and so forth. And so she got more curious about it. So we talked a little bit about 21st century skills, learning and innovation and that kind of stuff. And then she turned to me and said, "So why isn't your presentation on the cell phone, and why are you printing all this paper?" I just got up and walked out of the room. So I said, but more, so we have some work to do, and I told her that I'll keep working at it. So this is a good thing. So a couple of things that I just want to make sure that I share with you. We've got to talk today a little bit about what does 21st century learning mean? Why should we care? You've heard some of that. What does this teaching in this century look like? I'm trying to give you some live examples. And how do we get there? If I do nothing else, so those are the 4 points. Those are the 4 issues I hope to elaborate on by giving you some real examples, by bringing you into the discussion about it, and most importantly, compelling you to act. Folks, we've been talking about this. I'm getting worried that America is beginning to glory in we're doing bad. Look at that neighborhood and so forth. We're constantly looking at negative statistics. It's important to know what they are, but we've got to act to change this now. And we've got to stop glorifying and talking about how bad things are. We've got to recognize that and move on. And we've got to act on it as opposed to constantly rehashing that. If you don't know how bad it is and how much danger we are in as a society for our lack of responsiveness to the new century and the new world, then we need to get out from under that rock. Okay? So let's act on it. I hope to stretch your imagination a little bit with some of the points I'll make. I'm not going to explain it full detail. I only have 20 minutes or so, but hopefully I can stretch your imagination. So let's start this way. Let's look at this. The slide that I have says, a couple of years ago, what's his name? Fareed Zakaria did a quick analysis and looked at where we are as Americans. So since I have to use some technology, I'd like you to text me, what do you think we are today? We, in the 90s, early 2000, had the tallest building, the largest publicly traded company, largest investment firm, biggest movie industry, largest casino, was all in the USA. Take a second and let's use it. Let's engage for a second. And I would love for you, if you believe today we have, in those categories that I just outlined, if we have 7 of those 10 things, text 64289, the code to 22333. So the code is 22333. Let's see what happens here. All right, in the interest of time, what are the categories again? Tallest building, largest publicly traded company, largest investment firm, biggest movie industry, largest casino, biggest passenger plane, largest refinery. That was 10 years ago, folks. And if those symbols represented how well we were doing, where we were heading, the scope of our innovation, what does it mean today when none of those areas we're leading the world in? Okay? Problem.
Hi, I'm Gary Nell, President and CEO of Sesame Workshop. Today's children are growing up in an interconnected world, which means we need to be helping them early on to develop the skills they need to become global citizens and leaders in the 21st century.
Oh, me know those skills. Yeah, global awareness.
Right, Cookie Monster, that's one.
Yeah, kids need to be aware of different kind of cookies cross globe.
No, Cookie Monster.
Yeah. Oh, and problem solving.
That's another one.
Yeah, kids need to know how to solve problem of empty cookie jar.
That's not exactly
yeah,
the
and
kind of...
technology skills.
well, that's true,
yeah,
but...
kids need to know how to find cookie recipe on internet.
Cookie Monster, no.
What?
Kids need these skills to help prepare them for the 21st century world around them.
Okay, me knew that. Yeah, those life skills, and those just as important as knowing ABC and 1, 2, 3.
Now you're talking.
Yeah, well, me one smart cookie. Some even call me luminary.
That you are. We all have a role to play in the future success of today's youngest children, even luminous cookie-loving monsters.
What'd he say?
Friends, we all have a role to play, and I often use that slide once in a while to help kids when I speak to schools and teachers, to help them get the point, break the monotony a little bit, and point out that that's what it's about, those 4 things, and it's better hearing, it's good, hopefully it's good hearing it from Cookie Monster also. So what are we doing to address this? The Partnership for 21st Century Skills, we created sort of a unified collective vision for what it should be. Rather than attempting to explain this, I'll give you 2 things. So you have the rings underneath that have a lot of the supporting system we say need to exist. And you have the rainbow of things. And there are 2 parts of this rainbow I want to highlight. Content, where the 3 R's sit, and the area where some of the things that Dr. Grant alluded to earlier, including critical thinking, collaboration, the 4 C's, and where that sit. We've got to get that. We can spend a lot of time figuring out and talking about why that's important, and you'll hear some examples later on again, but we've got to fuse them. And the example of the industries that we're losing is part why. It's not that we don't teach math and you don't teach science. It's, you know, the powerful example of how much more powerful it is if you have to write something based on a newsletter. And that collaboration around that work and that development and recognizing the importance of that, how we do that. We've got to teach those critical thinking skills because they lead to problem solving. And practice makes perfect, we know that. So, to give you an example of why this is so important.
I figure 75% to you, Panma, and 25% divided between the 5 of us. Yida, Crowbar, myself, Tom, and the baby. That makes 5% for each one of us.
Billy, you're cheating yourself. If there's 25% divided among the 5 of you, that's 14% apiece.
Oh, no, listen, Pa. I wouldn't cheat you. You know I wouldn't. Now, look here. I'll show you. Let me rub this out here. And now, 25 divided by 5 is 5. You see, 5 won't go into 2, will it? No. But 5 goes into 25 5 times, you see?
No, you're wrong, Billy. Now, I'm pretty good mathematician. Now, 5 into 25... 5 won't go into 2, will it?
No.
But 5 goes into 5 once. Now, we didn't use the 2 before, so we bring it down here. Now, 5 into 20 goes 4 times. There you are. 5 into 25, 14.
No, look, Pa. Let me prove it to you now by multiplication. 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25.
Really, I'm surprised you're learning.
Huh?
I'm surprised that you're learning. Now I'll show you. 5 times 14 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5. 25. That's it.
No, look, Ma. Look, you're wrong there because I'll prove it to you. We'll put down 5 14s here. 14. There. Now I'll prove to you by addition that 5 14s is not 25. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20.
21, 22, 23, 24, 25. There you are. Better brush up, Billy. I don't want to see you boys cheated.
hope you get the point. Critical thinking gone mad. And why we have to address this issue. So what does this look like in a real classroom? You saw two funny examples of trying to highlight this problem and the challenge we face. Fortunately for us, I work at the Verizon Foundation where, like Dr. Grant, we're involved in a number of efforts across the country where there's some good things going on. What we've got to do is systemize them. What we've got to do is highlight them. What we've got to do is correct some very systemic flaws that we've had ingrained in us over the years and recognize, one, the history of why it existed, whether it's the agrarian age of education or the industrial age, and recognize where we are now with knowledge and what is required for that. So problem solving and critical thinking becomes necessary. I'm not going to go online to show you this, but this is one example of the kind of resources we've partnered with several groups to build. And literally, it's a resource that and one of 55,000 basically, where students in the classroom can work on a project, a real-life project, online to solve critical problems that the mayor of a city has. And it brings that idea of knowledge into the real world and helps with the advanced thinking that we need to have applied today. When I was growing up, it was important, I felt really good. I could memorize the capital of all the states. Today, that's not important, as important. Knowing it, maybe, getting to that information is. What's more important is, can I help that community where I live, or the mayor, or the city, figure out, using my GPS, where is the best place, and some other tools to put a park? What are the kinds of things that I use? How do I implement that? Or just using that knowledge in a different way. You can literally get that information in 10 seconds from anywhere. What's more important is the applied skills of knowing that. So I could actually go online and show you that. So I talked earlier about the 3 R's and why we have to infuse that. The core subject areas. Another example here. Comic creator. Making it live in the classroom is what we're doing and trying to make sure that teachers have these kinds of tools that they can integrate. Given, we talked about the newsletter earlier, whether it's a comic book or whatever the kid's interested in, giving them the tools to do it in a way that they can use their world and real world settings to make those changes. Science, interesting video here. If I were to double click on that and take you out to the web, you will literally get to see an animation of the development of a refinery and the thinking that needs to go in to get what we have today by way of a refinery, along with the understanding of how oil develops and how it gets refined in a way that really breaks it down for kids, and then asks them to apply that to sort of a real-world setting problem now, using some collaborative skills and understanding using GPS and other technology tools, understanding where they should provide key points of location for looking, and so on, and how do we solve this problem. So that's what our work has to be about. How do we solve problems? How do we create a better society? And so we believe that by addressing all of these and tying them together, take a look at the 21st century themes and the rainbow that we have, and study it. See how you can apply it in your environment and tell others about it. This is a video, I'm not going to play that. It's a video of students that come in. This was done about 7 years ago by National Geographic. Students who will leave in Africa to come here to study, to the US to study. Today one of them is an internist, the other is anesthesian, doctor, and they, on the plane, were talking about what they heard about America, that you live in an apartment, and they have something called a shower, and just understanding that their world, how different it is, and what they needed to achieve here. How do we help students understand what the rest of the world is experiencing, and how do they transform it, and what does it mean to them? All of those things can be found on our Thinkfinity.org program. Another example, the doc talked about the drama and the arts. we're investing millions of dollars to ensure that that's part of this effort of resources that we're making sure is available. Didn't see his remarks before I came here, but knew that this was an example needed to highlight, because we know every day how that's getting slashed. It's an important element, we believe. All of our research has shown that, and it has to be integrated. So, and I can show you why it applies to global awareness, but this is a smart group, so I'm going to skip through that in the interest of time so that we can have a dialogue about this. Let me show you this example, Joe. It's a compound interest calculator. That's often used to demonstrate to kids. You know, I used it with my daughter. I'm not sure it's working. I said to her, if I give you an allowance of $100 a month and a very generous interest rate of $4.5, let's put in numbers and show you how it actually works. So we have 0 lines now. It's at $100 a month. 4.5 interest rate. $100 is the principal you start with, the monthly contribution of another $10. What would you retire with, and how much money did you need? Just making that come alive for her. She's still withdrawing money from her allowance, but I'm hoping someday that will sink in. You know, it's like the more you leave in there, the more you put in there, somehow they want to give you more to add to that. And that she got excited about that. And while these are simple examples, but I think hopefully you begin to see the pattern. And if you think of a place where there are thousands upon thousands of these kinds of resources and opportunities for teachers and others to integrate into their everyday teaching, I think we can begin to turn this corner. And I say turn the corner, but we have a number of schools in a number of places. We heard about the Mountain Schools effort, and there are others. We heard about the Big Picture Company and others who are making good strides. And let's get those to become more widespread in this country. And so that so the reminder is just how horrible it would be without the content and the 3 R's. Let me point out to you some real-life pictures that existed. This was not photoshopped. This was not copied. Building a bridge from both ends. And talk about not having the good math and good critical thinking and good collaboration. The bridges didn't connect. Some real interesting math here. All of a sudden, so the population fit above sea level, established, and someone decided that there was a total in there somewhere. Folks, I kid you not, I did not make these pictures up. It's out there. Painting a sign for a school to tell the people in the community that a school is coming, you're in the school zone, and we can't spell school. Content is important, we've got to do that. And my favorite one of the bridge, of the windows that weren't connected and framed properly. It gets even stairs to nowhere. Let's get into it. And you see it every day, what we do and what we lose out, and this is how real this is. So, where can 21st century learning tools be found? I started to talk a little bit about an effort that we are at the Verizon Foundation has invested millions upon millions of dollars to help teachers get the resources like this. In 2007, we just renewed our commitment to do that. A lot of STEM and 21st century skills content and resources available and guidance of how to integrate communication collaboration. Go to thinkfinity.org and you will see some of that. We also have professional development because, as it was pointed out earlier, we have to ensure that we give the teachers an opportunity to develop. And this will, as the things changes, the world changes, and as rapidly as it's changing, how do we ensure that that's happening effectively? Take a look at what we're doing and spread the word and let us know we can continue to help. Okay, so Verizon is invested in this thing, but we're not the experts in education. I know a little bit about it because of my teaching background at the university and so forth, but what we did was bring together 11 of the premier educational organizations to help us build this content. The National Center for Teachers, Council for Teachers of English, National Council for Teachers of Math. When you tell a teacher about those organizations, and those are who we are saying, here's $1.5 million each, here an overall commitment of $60 million over the past 6 years, 3 years, and then another 3 years going forward, to build this content so that we can give our teachers one leg up in terms of saving them time, giving them powerful, engaging resources so they can focus on integrating it into the classroom in an effective way. We've got to help on that front. We're doing that with a number of strategic partners and with State Departments of Ed. So what is it? It's this environment, a free, absolutely free website, no subscription, no log-on required, where you can get access to all of these resources. And I gave you 3 or 4 examples, but think about over 50,000 of those being available. Whether it's a printable map, a simulation, an interactive, videos, a learning game, those are the kinds of things that we make available. And then we try to weave it together at the foundation but through our highlighting for folks what are the core subject areas, how learning and innovation and skills can take place, and then what are the 21st century themes that you need to be aware of in order to make this work for you. So if you're not interested in that, you've got to exit now, but we've got to address this issue. It is the wrong way to go. It really is if we're not focused on addressing this issue. So at Verizon and within the education world, there is some transformation taking place. We're finding ways to connect. We're finding that there are a lot of students and a lot of people who are talking to each other using, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, a lot of community and collaborative platforms, but yet still we have an education system where 30 to 50%, depending on the audience you're focused on, kids are dropping out, and we're offering this free. That tells us something, and 50% of the folks that you offer something free to said, I don't want it. Then the problem is not the students, folks. It's what we're offering. So we must address that. We've got to figure out where to make the change and how to get teachers focused on this, how to get the system changed to address this. I don't need to rehash the negative stats, but it's there, and you should know that it is impacting all of the things that we've done. Let me read for you a quote that I thought was a very powerful one. Because other nations have and probably will continue to have the competitive advantage of a low-wage structure, the United States must compete by optimizing its knowledge-based resources, particularly in science and technology, and by sustaining the most fertile environment for new and revitalized industries and the well-paying jobs they bring. The Committee on Prospering in the Global Economy of the 21st Century. Truer words weren't spoken. We've got to address that. We've got to go beyond the classroom. I had one exec tell me that his son said he didn't want to go back to school because the teacher kept telling him things he could find on Google in 10 seconds. Point well taken. We've got to become collaborators. We've got to become facilitators. We've got to help them transform the way they teach, that Dr. Grant referred to earlier. And we've got to address this. And we are supporting this effort at Verizon because it is important for our business. You know, we've got to understand and know why a good education system impacts having informed consumers and consumers who can purchase our products, but also our contribution to having great employees in the future. So this is part of the effort of why we are invested in this. We must innovate. Verizon is continuing to innovate in a number of ways, and we're just one of many, but we're really pushing to try to do that, whether it's bringing Fios or making the cell phone and the droids and those tools available to you. We are looking now at how do we create the ability to use, give the teachers the ability to use simple devices as teaching tools in their classroom, bringing content to the cell phone environment so that learning not only happens in the classroom, but on the way to the bus stop and when I get home while I'm waiting. We've got to create those teachable moments, and we think we have the tools that can help do that. We're working with our content partners to help address that issue and so forth. So, you know, years ago we used to have the old POTS line, plain old simple telephone system lines. Today it's something called pretty awesome, neat stuff. Very different fiber optics that's much faster than what you can think. A lot of investment. This is not about Verizon. You get the picture. We're one of many companies that are really trying to stir up the ideas and the energy around innovation. We've got to do it. We've got to get out and act, and we've got to change. So what's the point? The point is today, if you assume that everyone in the world is on the same Eastern time zone, at 8 o'clock this morning, 1.5 billion kids got up to go to school. How many of them got an engaging education and you know, learned something that they can apply and was applying things to solve problems? That is what education is about. We've got to do that, address that. We've got to recognize why sort of the AIK, why we are in a knowledge society today versus an agrarian society in terms of how education applied and was successful then versus now, or even during the industrial age. What has changed? And we've got to make that point and hammer it home, but move on. And last two points is, Tom Friedman is right. It is really a flat, hot, crowded world. And if we're going to compete, we've got to start with where people are learning and being exposed. Or else we will be challenged for generations to come. And our responsibility, our solemn responsibility is, and we've grown up with it for a number of generations, is to make the world a better place for humans and for our kids in the future. And we are failing them miserably, but there are sparks and glimmers of hopes, and we've got to take the mountain school, the mom school, and others and make it come alive more systematically. And remember, practice makes perfect. It's not just about the content, it's applying it and working it and challenging each other and seeing that happen in the classroom. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Al. Let's take a few questions. Just raise your hand, Gabrielle, right here.
Thank you for encouraging us at the beginning to focus on the positive, and let's not keep wallowing around in all the different concerns we have about our indicators of decline. However, behind that, I think we need to look at some of the root causes and the critical thinking that goes into why do we have so many problems. One way to do that, yes. How can we expand the indicators from the ones you gave to include quality of life issues, the kind of ones that Hazel Henderson talked with us about, tallest skyscraper and all that? That's pretty limited. I think we need more quality of life indicators as well. And by the way, I think the world's largest casino is here in the United States. It's called AIG, and all the shadow banking people that are in cahoots with them.
I mean, your point is well taken with regards to the largest casino, because we see how the financial crisis affected worldwide. It didn't just affect America. That's the whole point of globalization and learning and making sure kids are prepared for that era. Point well taken. To your question regarding how do we address quality of life, I think you'll hear from others, and I will point out that once we begin to ingrain the sort of the 4 C's around collaboration and problem solving, which are about real world problem solving, I think that picture will come out. I think kids will begin to realize, a simple example, as nonchalant as she was about it, my 13-year-old pointed out to me, why am I printing my presentation on paper when I have a cell phone that has the capability to do that? So while that's a very simple and basic response to your question, I think the idea, and we believe as educators, that we've got to start. And you'll begin to see as we incorporate the ideas around the 4 C's, communication, collaboration, and it becomes more about learning whether 1 and 1 equals 2, and more about how do you solve problems about where's the best place to build a park, I think you'll begin to see some quality of life issues bubbling up and being addressed as a result of that. There are others who may have studied that specific question more and can have a more concrete answer, but I think that's where it will begin.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Lindsay Holmes. I'm actually a mobile application developer. So you lightly touched on it, but I wanted to talk more about mobile apps in education. We typically do like non-traditional apps. So we'll do apps for politicians, for nonprofits, and we're really looking to explore, the education sector. But I do find that, it's like, beating a dead horse. It's everything is computer-based, and that's, what's seeming to be the newest technology, and it really isn't. Like you started to touch on, it's mobility. So especially from Verizon's standpoint, how can we get some sort of device in the classroom at a economical price point, and then create like custom apps? And I develop mainly for the iPhone platform, but I know that you all have the capabilities to do like GPS tracking for attendance. You can stream videos of teachers. So, there's a bunch of different things you can do just through an app instead of buying new
Let me take a stab at that. 2 quick points. One is we have attempted to address that issue by piloting with 2 schools, one in Boston and one in New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey. And where we're able to break the mold and say, we'll work with you to give you something that works for you. So it's not, here's an app, go use it in a classroom. We've partnered with the schools. We're trying to understand, taking what they have to teach, working with our content partners, and seeing how do we make it seamless, how do we extend the classroom by providing that content. And this September, you'll hear a lot more about that project. So we're doing it by taking it chunks at a time. There are also a number of great folks doing Project K. There's Eric Soloway out of Chicago. There's some folks who are doing some small pieces there in terms of app development for the classroom. But you're right. I think New York City is one city where they've basically said no cell phones in the classroom. Every week my daughter comes home and says, Daddy, you got to fix this problem. Why can't I have my cell phone on in the classroom? Don't you work for Verizon? But, so I understand it's a challenge, but I think for economic reasons, and you'll see that this is becoming a much more powerful tool as time goes on. So look for it, not only because I work for Verizon, but Apple actually was a game changer with the iPhone, showed that this tool will be something that's economically and feasible to acquire. The price point when the Droid first came out was close to $500. Now it's like $199, and you get one free if you do a 2-year contract. So these things are changing and getting much more easier to acquire. So.
I just want to go back to the first point. I looked at that list of the biggest building, the biggest casino, and I thought about what our earlier speaker said, and why is bigger better, and why are these things really important? Maybe that's an old 20th century list of things we should aspire to, and maybe we should have a different list, and maybe we are achieving that different list.
Point well taken, and I'll work on my list. But I think the larger point I wanted to make is that even in the areas where we want the kind of change that you're saying we need to have, whether it's quality of life changes, I'm not sure we've made that shift either, and that we have the best of it either. And I think if we look at the intent was to basically say at one point we were driving the innovations, we were driving the changes that was required to have that quality of life and those kinds of things. And now I'm not sure we're doing that, or we're leading the pack to do that innovation. The president has recently made a push for technology that reduces a carbon footprint and all of those things. So those things hopefully will help address part of the quality of life issues and protection of our planet, but we're not leading the efforts there. And so that's the bigger point I wanted to make. Even in the areas of quality of life, we're not leading the efforts. And we have some work to do there. So unless someone points out to me where we are leading those charges, then I'll be willing to keep holding on to my list. Thanks. Thanks, we appreciate it. Thanks.
Both David and Al, thank you very much for starting this morning off with some important things to think about. Verizon is doing some amazing things. And before we break for coffee, I just want to mention some things that we're doing. It's a little commercial. I have bought into, a partnership for 21st century skills, and we're trying to do our part, get some online learning modules for high schoolers. And so what we've been doing is developing these things. We have 4 so far, 1 on creativity and innovation, 1 on personal finance, 1 on communication, networking, and etiquette, and 1 on global understanding. So I'm excited to just let you know that we've been developing a game, and we're developing it through a partner that's sponsoring this program called ViTab. And so it's in the queue for the iTunes store, and soon for Droid. And I'm sure you guys will support the iPhone next year anyway. So let me just show this to you. We have an iPad from the library. It's a geography game. I have my iTouch. You're welcome to try it. I was going to give a reward for anyone who can do it in time because it's pretty hard. Anyway, it's sort of a geography game. Love for you guys to take a look at it so we can test it and refine it. So it's a drag and drop game. So that's the point. We have to use games, we have to use technology. We're trying to be innovative, we're trying to experiment, and hopefully we can get some of these things integrated not only through K through 12, but even in the university setting.